Hi.
Hey!
All I heard him say was, you might know him from his incredible body of work. That's all I heard.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah. Wow. Hi, everyone. This place is massive. I think we have a pretty big space.
It does fine. I think Dr. Z yesterday said, like, oh, so everybody gets 100 free chairs, so take them as you leave, you know?
Yes, there you go.
Oh, well, there you go, too. So, how you been?
I've been good. Traveling, working, seen a lot of your faces coming up to the booth these last couple of days, so thank you for coming. And thanks for coming today. It's Sunday, and it's New Orleans, and you guys woke up and got to the con, so I applaud you. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, as always. Since it's just me and you, so solo thing, I've heard the story before, but in case they haven't, because I think it's so wonderful, let's go into a little bit of the origin story of what kind of drew you to becoming wanting to be a performer, and some of the stuff you did involving recyclables to help you along the way.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to become an actor when I was like 6 years old, and I was watching what I thought was a new TV show on TV. It was a movie. It was the 1984 film Annie. So I was watching Annie, and I was like, what is going on? These kids are singing and dancing. They're cleaning. They have holes in their pants. Like, I was like, I'm just like them. And I remember I looked at my mom, and I was like, Mom, I want to be that when I grow up. I want to be an orphan. And she looked at me and says, ¿Estás loco? Like, are you crazy? And I was like, well, what are they? Like, those son actores, they're actors. And I was like, well, I want to be an actor who's also an orphan. You know? No. But she was like, no, like, you can do that if you want, but we don't have money for that because that takes classes, like acting classes, dance classes, singing classes. And we're very poor, and so she didn't have the money for that. So I was like, well, that means I can't do it? And she was, I didn't say that. I was like, this is America. You can do anything you want, and anything is possible if you try to find a way. And I was like, okay. So then, a couple weeks go by, and then I had a fellow thespian at school. It was a girl who was like, they're doing improv classes at the community center. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to take it. We should take it. And that's what they get the Disney kids. And I was like, that's what they get. Like, that's how they pick the Disney kids. Like, you're watching Disney Channel? That's how they find them. And I was like, oh my God, that's how you become an actor. That's how you become famous. So I was like, I went to my mom. I was like, can I take this class? It's like $12.50. And my friend went to her mom and got a $20 bill. And she's like, keep the change, shug. And then I went to my mom. She was like, no tengo dinero. We don't have money for that. And again, she saw my face. I was defeated. And I was like, oh. I was like, that means I can't do it. I was like, I didn't say that. I said, if you really want something bad enough, you have to work for it and you find a way. I was like, okay, I'm 6 years old. That's how I talked when I was 6, by the way. I'm 6 years old. So then I remember we were walking home from school one day, and this man was going through a trash can in the park. And I was like, Mom, what is he doing? It's so like sticky and gross in the trash can. And she said, Vende los botes. He sells the cans. I'm like, you get money from trash? And she goes, this is America. And I was like, wow. So I went into her closet, got a wire hanger, unhooked it like a long finger. Then I got a plastic bag, a Food for Less bag underneath the sink. And I started collecting trash to pay for my first improv class. Yeah. And so you can do what you want. You can be what you want to be if you really. So people think, oh my God, you're such like an overnight success, or because you know my body of work. From the last decade that I've actually officially been doing TV, but for all the years, for the prior decades that I've been collecting cans, working those jobs as a waiter or at Burger King or, a runner for a taco truck at a swap meet. Do you guys have swap meets here? It's like a flea market, but it's outside. Kinda. So this guy in the back goes, Do you guys have swap meets? They're not great. But yeah, I did all kinds of really crazy jobs. At one point, I found a flyer in my neighborhood. It says, California teens, if you're between the ages of 13 and 16 and want to make extra money, call this number. And I was like, this is great for children. So I called it and pretend that I was 13, but I was 10 years old. and I lied, and I told the guy I was 13, and he knew. Well, it was almost insulting because it was like, "You're 13," and I go, "Mm-hmm," and he goes, "Yeah, I believe it," and I'm all, I'm like, "Okay," and I convinced my mom to let me work for this stranger that puts kids in a van. Like, he collects us after school, goes to your house, puts you in a van. He goes to the 99-cent store, buys 20 items, a sewing kit, chocolates, blah, blah. You sell it for $5 because you're using your image as a kid. There's no program. Like, he was lying about this California program. And, like, you would sell the item for $5. He would give you $1.25 and keep the rest. He was a crook. And he knew that kids were desperate. And he would only put those flyers up in neighborhoods that were low income. Because most of these kids had already been to juvie, like, in detention centers. So most of these kids had already been in trouble with the law, so they weren't going to get regular jobs. So they were desperate to make some extra cash. And the way that some kids would sell one box a night. And I remember, like, they would make $1.25 being on the street working for 5 hours. And then he picks you up in the van and then takes you to McDonald's because you're hungry. And the $1.25 would buy you a cheeseburger, and you'd have to be right back at that van tomorrow because you have no money in your pocket. So, like, I remember, like, all these things, like, my book's coming out, you guys. To answer your question, my favorite color is blue.
Oh. How lovely, how lovely. Well, go ahead and finish that story, because when they found out how old you really were, because this is fun.
Well, I mean, when they found out, how old I was, he was like, "What?" But he didn't stop because that was his bestseller. So I made everything an acting gig. Like, I would go to the door and I'd be like, dun dun dun. We're like, "Hi, my name's Harvey and I'm with California Teens and I'm 2 boxes away from reaching my goal," And they're like, "Oh, I'm diabetic. I don't eat candy." I was like, "Okay," and then I walk away. I go, "But here, let me give you a tip." And he would always tell us, "Don't get tips," because he doesn't get a cut of a tip. And so one time, I was not supposed to get tips, but I was still getting them. And I would look around because he would drive in a van and like monitor us. And the way you got into a neighborhood is he gives you a piece of chalk and you put an arrow at the curve of the street with your initials. That means you went into that street. If there was no arrow going out of the street, that means you were on that street. This is before cell phones and stuff. When nobody had cell phones, we couldn't afford them. And then so he would drive down the van looking for you because he knew you were in that street like a bounty hunter. And he was just like looking for you. And then one time, I worked my way up to manager. I was 11, and I was, the manager. And that meant that, like, one day out of the week, I could ride in the van with him and help with, like, the box reimbursements or whatever. And we were walking, looking for this one kid. He was all tatted and, like, whatnot, and, like, he was taking a tip when we saw him. And I was like, he's taking a tip, but I didn't say anything. And he saw it, and he got out of the van and literally shook this kid up for the money. And I was like, he's a kid. Like, I thought, like, that's wrong. He's a kid. And, like, that's when I realized this guy's dangerous. Like, he literally shook him. He's like, why'd you take the money? Where? And, like, he shook him down to get, like, $5 off of this kid. And then I realized, I don't want to work with him. I don't like this. And that's not the person that I want to work with. And I started realizing I want to work with people that are nice. And I want to work with people that I get excited to work with. And acting was something that allowed me to work with people who are like-minded, who were trying to create something in art and whatnot. So I did musicals. I wanted to do musicals my whole life. But I ended up doing TV and film, as life works out. But theater has always been like my main focus, and like I've always loved doing theater. I just did a reading at the Lincoln Center this past week in New York City for a new play, and it's fantastic. I met some of my closest friends in theater. One of my friends is here who lives in New Orleans, and Matthew is right there. Everyone say hi to Matthew.
Hi, Matthew.
And when I go way back and we did theater together and in productions that we were like, why are we doing this? But we did it because we love performing and we love doing what we do. And I'm just really grateful to have a career with people that are like-minded, and I never have to be around people who shake people down for $5. Screw that guy. Yeah.
Wherever he is.
Yeah.
I usually do this chronologically, but we'll get to Shadows in a moment. But you just popped up recently in Life of Chuck, which I really enjoyed. Really had a kick out of that one.
That was a fun movie. I was in and out. We shot that in Alabama, not too far. Like 2 summers ago. Was that last summer? What year is it?
It's right now. It's 2025.
It was last summer that we shot that. I was in and out. Mike Flanagan directed that and wrote that, and it's like his love letter, because he usually does like horror, or like suspense and whatnot, like The Haunting of Hill House and like shows like that. And he's a fan of Shadows as well. And Kate his wife, Kate Siegel, they both liked the show, and I met them at an event, and they were so nice. And out of the blue, he just reached out and was like, "Hey, would you care to come and do this? It's a really quick. If you say no, I won't be offended." And it was a quick 1-day shoot, but it was such a different character for me to do, and it was nice to like that he thought about me in that way. It was like, I know you can do this, but I know that maybe you can do this as well. And so I went and I did a 1-day shoot, and it was to be a part of the film is so lovely. It's really great. If you haven't got a chance to see it, Life of Chuck, it's really great. You should take a look at it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And of course, I love hearing this story. Then we'll go to the audience questions. The casting process for Shadows, you were a completely left field choice, as you told me before. Like they were looking at a middle-aged man.
Yeah, which is nothing wrong with the middle-aged man.
God, I hope not.
Guard, seize him. I went in for the funny story. I went to wine and cheese night for a friend of mine, Mimi Michaels, is a friend I met in a commercial set years ago, and we became really good friends. And she had a baby, and she had left New York because there was a storm coming. It's winter, like January. And she goes, "Hey, I'm in town with the baby. You should come see the baby and say hi to my brother." I've met the family before, the brother and her husband and whatnot. And I was already in my pajamas, and I was like, well, I'm not going to see her for a bit. And then she has a new baby. Probably go say hi to the baby and like whatever. Miles is the baby's name. And we went... I went to the wine and cheese night at her brother's house, and it was people that I knew: her husband, her brother, the baby, and the new girl I never met. Her name's Yvonne. And at the wine and cheese, Yvonne was just really nice, and we're just talking about nothing in particular. And then the next day, I get a text from an unknown number, and it goes, "Hey, it's Yvonne. I got your number from Mimi. I hope you don't mind, but you're really fucking funny." Sorry, there's kids in the audience. It's okay. You got to learn somehow. That's a word. And so I was just like, "Oh, hey, girl, what's up?" And she was like, "You're really fucking funny. You should audition for my fiance's new show." And I was like, "I don't do those kind of films anymore." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "What?" I'm shaking, "What?" And she's like, "No, you should hurry because they've cast everyone for the show. They've cast Nandor, they cast Naja, they cast everyone. You should hurry because this role is auditioning now." And I said, it was the year of Yes and. It was like January 8th or something. We just gone back from the holiday break, and Hollywood was starting to pick up again. And it would have been a slow season for me. I was literally like down to my last $20 in my bank account. Like I didn't know I was going to pay rent the end of January. And so I was just literally like, okay, the year of Yes and. And I was like, I'll say yes. And then I was like, who's the casting director? Allison Jones. And I was like, Allison Jones? I was like, she's cast Golden Girls, The Office, Bridesmaids, The Fresh Prince. You name it, she's cast it. If you ever saw a comedy you liked, she's cast it. A comedy movie, she's cast it. And I was like, oh my God, this is my chance to meet her. I get to meet Allison. So then I got the sides for this character, and I was like, uh-oh. And it was like Guillermo was like 25 years older than I am. And I was like, oh no, why, youthful face, why? And then I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to age myself up. And I don't know any Guillermos personally, but I had a picture. My writing partner had a picture of Guillermo del Toro, and I was just like, oh, that's a Guillermo, So that's what a Guillermo looks like. And then I just remember his hair curled like into little curls like this, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do my hair like that. And then I'm going to wear glasses. And I found these Harry Potter glasses, and I poked the lens out. And I never really dress up a character. Like, I'm like, you should look similar to maybe the aesthetic of maybe what you're playing, but I'm not going to walk in like an armor, for Game of Thrones or something. So I was like, I'll just age myself with the clothes that I wear. And I wore this like brown sweater vest and a long sleeve shirt. And then I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous. No one on TV would look like this. And I went to the audition, and I parted my hair in the middle, and I was like, hi, I'm here to read for Allison Jones. And they were like, she's not here. And I was like, no, I have an audition. And I met a girl at a wine and cheese night. And they're like, okay, what's her name? Yvonne. And what's her last name? Mm-hmm. It's a lot of questions for someone that doesn't know where Allison is. And they're like, well, she's in London auditioning for Guillermo's. funny place to audition for Guillermo's, I think. But I was like, that makes sense because the whole cast is from the UK. And I was like, all right, well, what do I do? Like, well, it's okay, we're going to put you on tape and whatever. So they put the microphone on my like collar, and then I put it in my pocket. And I just remember doing the character that I was just like, I looked up and he was like, Harvey? And I go, yeah. And he goes, we're done. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. I don't remember doing the audition. And that audition was given to us, and it's floating on the internet somewhere, but you can see my audition tape that I was just completely entranced, like as Guillermo. And then I was walking away, and he goes, Harvey, wait. And I go, oh, I thought he was going to go, you're going to Hollywood, kid, you know? He's like, the microphone. And I was like, okay. And I walked out, and I was like, oh, I hope I did okay. And my agent at the time was like, how'd you do? And I was like, I don't know. I really don't know. And then I was like, well, we'll find out. And then so 2 hours later, they had shown it to Taika, Jermaine, Paul Sims, back then Scott Rudin, and everyone at FX. And Allison had seen it in London, and they had all voted unanimously to test me with Kayvon. They said, you're not the right age, and you're the wild card. So I made a career out of being the wild card. If you look at my resume, my whole resume is wild card. Those roles, 90% of the time, were not written for me. They were written for someone else, like taller, slimmer, blue-eyed, red hair, like whatever it is. It was never written perfectly for me. But I went in there and did my audition, and this body and this, time and this age, and I think this character would look like this in this vessel. And they're like, never thought of it. Wild card, maybe, you're a maybe. So I was the maybe, and I was supposed to test with Kayvon. And weeks go by, and it's Martin Luther King weekend by now. And I know that they're starting production on that Tuesday. So Monday's a holiday, Tuesday they're starting production. It's Sunday afternoon, and I haven't heard anything. And I was like, I'm supposed to test, and I haven't tested with Kayvon. When am I going to test? And then nothing, and I was like, I didn't get it. So I went to the mall to distract myself with window shopping with my sister, and then a phone number kept calling me like 16 digits. And I was like, I don't know, it was a telemarketer, and then ignored it, and it kept ringing and ringing. And finally my sister's like, will you answer the effing phone, And I answer the phone, and then I go, hello? It goes, hey, is this Harvey? And I was like, yes. He's like, hey, it's Jermaine and Taika. Yes, I am. I'm testing for you for the. No, you're not testing. And I was like, oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. I wish you all the best in your endeavor. I thought they were calling to let me know, because sometimes they do. They go like, hey, you're no longer on hold. They went with a different direction. You'll get that kind of call sometimes. So then I said, you're the mate. We'll see you on set. And I was like, what? And I didn't test though. And it was like, we'll see you on set. And it was Sunday afternoon, and I had to call my agents and be like, I got it. And they're like, Harvey, are you okay? I'm like, I got it. I must have sounded insane to them that I got it. And they're like, no, that's not the way it works. So they call us, we're your agent, we call you. And I was like, don't call me, I'll call you. And then another day went by, and it's a holiday weekend, so everyone's out of the office, whatever. And then on Martin Luther King Day, on the holiday, I get a call, and they're like, yeah, you got it. And I was like, you don't sound too happy about it, I got the job. And they're like, you got it. And I was like, great. And they're like, you have a fitting tomorrow. And I had a fitting Tuesday, never chemistry read. I went straight to hair and makeup. And then when I went to wardrobe, they were like, Taika was like, Javi, what'd you wear for the audition? And I was like, oh, this like sweater vest and ugly, like in the glasses. But you don't have, oh my God. Though Guillermo's aesthetic was designed for my audition piece, Guillermo's hair was designed from the audition piece. And when we went to hair, Taika was like, what'd you do for the audition? Remember you had that thing? And I was like, oh, I don't usually wear my hair like that, because I showed up to set with my hair like this. And they're like, what happened to your hair? And I was like, what do you mean what happened to my hair? At the audition, you had a difference. I was like, oh, but that's for the audition. Surely you wouldn't want to do that for a show. And I was like, what did I just create? And now when I see a Funko Pop of Guillermo, I look at my hair, I'm like, you did this. You did this to yourself. So my favorite food is pizza.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good.
To answer your question. Yeah, so that's how I got the role of What We Do in the Shadows. And it's the best 6 seasons, 7 years altogether of my life, and it's changed my life for the best. And I'm so grateful for all the fans who continue to support the show. Now that it's even off the air, new people who support the show and discover the show. And thank you. Thanks to you guys. Thank you very much.
And on behalf of myself and the audience, thank you. Thank you for your talents and your professionalism and all these performances that you've brought in your career. You have just brought so much enjoyment and so many of these great roles, and I'm always looking forward to your next project.
Thank you. It's very nice.
No problem.
I'll try to keep you proud. Yeah.
That's very good. So, all right. So this is where I jump in the audience, and if anybody has a question. Oh, we want to do it Donahue style? I can do it Donahue style. Okay, fine. I'll do you, and then you, and then you.
Spotlight,
okay,
follow.
That's right. So, hey, what's your name?
My name is Andrea.
Hi.
Hi, I'm so happy to meet you. By the way, in the opening of the show, there's a picture of you looking like a younger vampire dressed up.
Yeah.
Was that an actual photo you had, or did they cook that up?
No, they asked if I had any vampire pictures as a kid, and I know I do somewhere. But all I could find was a mummy that was made out of ace bandages, and they're like, we can't use that. And I was like, oh, I don't have the vampire one, and time was running out, so they had an actor kid play me. Like, they brought in that kid and dressed him up, and they shot in the same scene that I shot my Armand picture. If you look closely, that's the same couch that they shot this kid in front of, so it makes it look like it's our same household through the years. So it's as a kid and as an adult. But the picture in the beginning is me when I am looking like this on the side, like profile pic, and then like this and like this. That's really me. When the opening credits, that's actually me. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Great question, Stars. I will do. Actually, we need to do a line because that way our camera can get you and get you on the camera too. So
yeah.
Come on up. I said they can.
Come on down.
Come on. I said you were next, so you go next. Okay. So, hi. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Margarita.
Hi, Margarita.
So I loved when I watched the show that your Mexican culture was brought in. You know, yo soy de Puerto Rico, I'm not Mexican, but I love when the Latino culture, Hispanic culture is brought in, but it's not shoehorned. Was that already written, or was that something that they came to you and said, hey, we can kind of bring this in together?
No, it was not written. I mean, Guillermo didn't have a last name when we first started, and I remember asked Chaika and Jermaine, can I give him a last name? Because I feel like he has no identity. Like, where's his background and whatnot? They're like, well, what do you want to name him? And I was like, something like Guillermo de la Cruz? And they're like, what does that mean? I was like, it means of the cross. Is that bad? He's like, no, that's perfect. And I was like, why did you say it like that? And it's like, no, because at that point, I didn't know the backstory that was going to happen. They were so secretive. I didn't know anything about Van Helsing blood. I didn't know any of that. So every time I read the script, I was in shock too. And I was like, what? But I chose De La Cruz. And they're like, yeah, it's perfect. Van Helsing. And I was like, wow, without knowing. So when I'm telling you everything was Kismet, with the Latino side of it, I was very adamant about when they're thinking about my mom, and they were gonna hire, they're looking at really great actresses, but we had established this was a Mexican household, and I was like, they were thinking, wonderful actors like Sofia Vergara and whatnot, and I was like, we should find a Mexican actress that hasn't had an opportunity yet, and who's a brilliant actress, and we did. And I remember that I was really nitpicky about this because I hate when I see my culture represented on screen, and it's not represented in the best way, because 9 out of 10 times we're depicted as something as a criminal or someone who worked and that's just not the truth. And our culture is rich and beautiful, and so I took it upon.
Real it was.
And
it was very real. It wasn't Hollywood.
Yeah, it was real, and I needed it to feel real because we're in this household. Even down to when we're writing a scene, we didn't have writers who spoke Spanish, and so some of the dialogue I was like, what's this? And they're like, it's Spanish. And I was like, Google translates that, and I was like, and there's a different way of Spanish when you're in a Mexican household, so they were nice enough to invite me to the writer's room to help with those scenes. And I was like, if I was in my mom's kitchen and it's around Christmas time, there'd definitely be this and that or whatever, If it's Christmas time, we have tamales, we have buñuelos and whatnot. And so they wrote buñuelos for the prop people to get, but they're not familiar with buñuelos in Toronto, Canada, Mexican buñuelos. So they just Googled it, and the first thing that came out was buñuelos from El Salvador, which are delicious, but they're different. They don't look the same, they're different. So when they brought them to set, I was like, what's that? And I saw the kitchen, and I was like, what are those things? Like, those are the buñuelos. The buñuelos. And I was like, the buñuelos? And those are not Mexican buñuelos. And then they're like, oh my God, I just Googled what was on the picture. So I made my own buñuelos before we started filming. I said, I need a packet of flour tortillas, cinnamon, sugar, oil. I was frying them right until the last minute, until we said rolling on the camera. I was like, I couldn't live with myself if I did not do that, because to this day, people say they see that scene. And I was like, I saw the buñuelos in the back. And I was just like, that's exactly what I needed to hear, because it's the smallest thing that means a lot to someone, and especially if I'm going to represent, my culture, my community, I want to be as authentic.
Like I said, I'm Puerto Rican, but I was raised in San Antonio, Texas, and I was raised with a lot of Mexicans. So when I heard you say ama, I was like, because in Puerto Rico we say mami and papi.
Yeah.
When you said ama, I was like, oh.
Yeah, and see,
I'm
that's
so
what I
glad.
mean. Like when they were writing, they would write like Guillermo says, "Hello, mama," in Spanish, and I was like, I wouldn't say mama, I would say ama, and then even that small change, people were like connecting with it. So yeah, yeah. Thank you. That's a really
Great
lovely
question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Hope.
Hi.
I have watched the show over and over again. It's like my favorite show to throw on in the background. So my question is like, out of all of the lines, because there are so many one-liners that are like absolutely hilarious, which was the hardest not to laugh at during filming?
Oh man, there's so many. There's so many jokes that you guys will never see because there's footage somewhere that like I hope that comes out on the anniversary or something. But bloopers that we did. I think the hardest one for me was like improvising that scene where I'm complaining for the first time in the camera about Laszlo. It was like, I'm just getting tired of like, Gizmo, well, where are the dildos? Gizmo, how are the dildos? Gizmo, have you tried the dildos? And it's just like, and when I just added, they're fine. And the idea that Guillermo had to go and try these dildos out. And the idea that he had it, like that was his breaking point. And then the idea that Lazo got off on the idea of like, ooh, like asking me to do something that he's getting pleasure in many ways was just so hilarious to me. And like, I remember I did that joke and Jermaine was directing that scene and he just laughed. He has this like a big laugh, bigger than life. And he's just like, and he's like screaming. So we had to cut right after that because then the sound picks him up. And he's right behind the camera. So if you look at that scene, he goes, they're fine. And then he goes like to the next scene because it breaks into the laughter. But yeah, that's probably one of the funniest moments I had. Yeah. Good question.
Great one. Thank you.
Naja.
Hello, what's your name?
Hi, my name's Bella. I'm going to throw you off from my costume a little bit. So I know that you play Vassago in Helluva Boss, and I wanted to ask if you could play any other character in the Hasbin Hotel Helluva Boss universe, which character would you play? Like, which is your favorite?
Ooh. I think everyone's just cast perfectly. I just was talking to Leslie backstage, and I was supposed to do Spam a lot with her on Broadway, and I couldn't at the last minute, and we've been reunited since then. And all the characters are really good. I do love well, I can't say too much. Shoot, I almost said something I was supposed to. Oh my God. Let's just say maybe I wouldn't Stolas. It's pretty great. Only because a lot of my connection is with that character. So it'd be nice to put myself in the headspace of where they're coming from. So I would say that. That's all I'm going to say.
There you go. Thank you.
Good question.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hi.
My question, you touched on it a little bit with someone's previous question, but you clearly What We Do in the Shadows, tongue-in-cheek vampire genre. You have great writers, but how much improvisation was there as actors just going off versus like reading a script and going, oh, this is what I need to say? It's funny.
It's, I would say, or Jermaine would say it's 50-50, but I think as the years went by, it's like, we always do a take, it's written. The writers are incredible. Like, we don't need to add anything that is already perfectly on paper. And then we get to play with it. So what we did was in season 1, when Taika was like, now let's have a fun one. The fun one was a fun run that you could improvise and you could do what you wanted with staying within the wheelhouse of where we're at. You're not going to completely change the storyline, but you can say words differently. You can, make a different attempt at a joke or whatever. And so every time he would say, let's have a fun one, I go, yay, funsies. And I say funsies. And he goes, yeah, funsies. And so as the years went by, we called it the funsies. And so sometimes, you do one take as scripted. We usually get notes from the producers upstairs after COVID, like, they stayed upstairs in a TV screen and they would send notes, and then someone would tell us, in this scene, we'll do it again, but blah, blah. Okay, got it. So you get notes. And then after that, you do funsies. So you do like 3 takes usually. There's been times where like, in the beginning we had different directors and they have different approach. So like we were doing a scene for like the 7th take. And then I remember Kayvon, who is lovely, just like he's done it every way he could. And he's just like, funsies? He's all, no funsies, because he wants to get to the fun part, and he goes, and he just, and cut. And he's like, I think we got it, And then they go, one more time. And he goes, funsies? Just asking, can we just do the fun one? Because they were still in the script version. Yeah, but we do improvise a lot of the stuff. I would say when you look at the final cut, it's pretty like split, 40-60, at least for me, I think. Some of my stuff that, usually makes it on take is my funsies, because in that I just feel the groove of Guillermo and like how he would say things, maybe do things differently, and how he looks at the camera, all of that stuff. But yeah, I would say 50-50 about that.
There you go. Great question. Thank you. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Bree.
Hi, Bree.
My question is, what is the best bit of advice you have for plus-size actors in the industry who struggle with confidence in getting roles that may not be typically plus-size roles?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, statistically proven, I shouldn't be successful because Hollywood has told me that this is not a place for me. But I stopped listening to that and stopped listening to what people. Your issue with my body is none of my business. That's your issue. If I love myself and I'm confident with myself, I'm gonna walk into a room and make this character in this vessel. Just because it was written, tall and, a redhead or with hazel eyes or whatever, or six-pack or tall and big, whatever it is, just because it's written that way doesn't mean that doesn't exist in a world. Two things can be true at once. That character can have that name and I can have that name and be the same thing, So I try to change people's minds by just the way that I go into an audition. I made a whole career out of being the wild card. I was never meant to be, the lead in this, or I was never meant to be, and I started asking why not, Because the idea that we're trying to fit a mold, right? Hollywood always tries to put a mold, and you have to fit into this mold. You are the mold. You're your own mold. People are going to be trying to be like you. So why are you trying to be like someone else? There's no one else like you. There's no one else like me. I know what I can do, and I know what I can't do, but I push myself to do the best version of myself. And the best version of myself is enough. And you're enough.
Are you an actress?
Yes.
Okay.
My director and stage manager are sitting right over there.
There you go.
Anyways, yes.
Great luck on your journey. Break all the legs, and it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And you will find your place. I look forward to hosting you on stage.
Thank you.
I love it.
Hey, what's your name?
I'm Bradley. I love all of the stuff that you've done. Adored your performance in Companion earlier this year. That was unbelievable.
Thank you.
My question actually has to do with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, because I feel like Perrito is kind of the
Academy
heart of that
Award
movie.
nominated.
Absolutely.
Puss in
I
Boots:
I
The
feel
Last
like
Wish.
your character is like the real heart of the movie, and there's so much tenderness and kindness in that voice performance, and I see a lot of that in your interviews and things like that too. But what was the biggest takeaway that you took from the experience of voicing Perrito, and is there any of the advice that character had that you've been able to apply to your own life?
Yeah, I mean, the character is just some of my favorite work just because of they really didn't shy away from telling a story where they talk about death, they talk about panic attacks, anxiety, and mental health, which for animated film you wouldn't think we should do a cartoon about mental health. I don't think anyone thinks that when you think of animation, but who was a fan of our movie that year as well? Guillermo. I thought it was I loved your film. It was great. And I was that's so funny that the man who's also nominated for Pinocchio that season is praising our film as well. So it just means that a good script, it goes a long way, but the performance, I felt like Perrito was so sweet and endearing. And there was a scene that in the original take, in the version, it said he's telling a story, but it was a very sad way of telling the story. So he was really kind of a woe is me. But people who are sad don't want you to know they're sad. And so I remember making the conscious decision, can I read this differently? Because Perrito wouldn't want to burden you with the story where he says, oh, we played this game when I was a kid, and there's my brothers and sisters, they put me in a sock and they filled it with rocks and threw me down the river. And then it's they try to kill you. And then the making light of the joke is people get a nervous laugh or they get comical when they're uncomfortable. And it's such an uncomfortable thing to talk about. It's they try to kill you, and it's they're so funny. In your mind, you change the narrative. It's but it was a game. And to go through all that trauma, and Perrito still want to be a therapy dog to help others, I think that is the biggest lesson I took from that. That no matter what trauma, we all have trauma, we've all gone through something, we're all going through something, whatever that is, you can still choose to help others. You can always choose to help
Great
others.
question. Thank you. Hello.
The doll.
Yes. What's your name?
Naja.
My name's Alicia. Well, I obviously love shadows, but I have a question because you mentioned you like theater. what is your favorite play or musical, and what would be your dream role?
Ooh, that's good. There's a lot of musicals that I like. I just saw a play that I loved, which is There's That Afternoon Thunder. Did you hear it? Oh Mary is by Cole Escola. Would love to do that play. It's really great. Also musicals. I did Your Good Man Charlie Brown in school, in high school and in college, and I thought it would be so great to do Your Good Man Charlie Brown on Broadway, like to go full circle. So maybe that would be a nice one. Yeah. Good question.
Great, thank you. Hey, what's your name?
Charles. First, I want to say thank you for doing the cons. I started watching What We Do in the Shadows after seeing you at a previous convention.
Really?
So thank you for doing what you do.
Oh.
So during this watch, though, I saw the Colin Robinson 100th birthday episode. Can you tell any stories about the shooting of that? Because it seemed hilarious to us. We were wondering if you had any, how it was for you shooting it.
The year that he turns 100 and he dies? Yes. We shot that season during the pandemic. And I remember that because Colin is reborn into baby Colin Robinson, Mark, who plays Colin, wasn't on set with us in Toronto. We never saw him. It was during the pandemic, and we just never saw him because he was at home in Palm Springs, but because we didn't need him there, because we were going to be working with kid actors, because they CG their face, like they put dots on their face, and they put Colin's face on the body of the kid. Well, I mean, we had like this amazing Broadway kid actor who's also on Sesame Street, and I felt so bad because they put so much effort into their dancing with their face, and no one ever saw their face. Like they were like da 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 da, and then when we see it, it's Colin's face, and he goes. And it's just like, and I felt so, and then that was such a learning experience. I'm like, man, it's like, you never know. Like, it's like, who comes up with this stuff? But I remember that season, since he died, and we had to raise him, it was really nice to show these nurturing sides to Laszlo and myself, like co-parenting together and trying to get baby Colin into that school. That episode where it was, if you look closely, Naja's wearing this pink Chanel-looking tweed outfit, which was a wink to Marge's pink outfit that she makes into different dresses to join the country club. Do you remember that in The Simpsons? That's a wink. That was written by Io, who is now on The Bear. She wrote that episode, and she did like a little wink to Marge Simpson because remember Marge tried to get into the country club, and they love her dress, and she has to keep changing the dress in different ways so it looks like a different dress every time. So Naja wore that dress to make it look like she was a sophisticated lady to get baby Colin into this school. And I just thought that those little like Easter eggs are so, and now you know that was a March dress.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have just a few minutes left,
Yeah.
but we've only got a few people here, so if it's okay with you, we'll do a lightning round.
Yeah.
I'll hit him really quick, and we'll just do it. Okay,
All right.
ready, set, go. Hey, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Ashley, and my question is, what is your favorite scene as Guillermo filming with Nandor?
Oh my God. My favorite scene with him was probably the last scene we had when I go to the coffin and I'm putting him to bed and letting him know that I'm not coming back, but I can't let him know. And it was really sad because that was the last day of shooting on the last scene of the show. And it was like really therapeutic because it was like I turn off the lights for the last time and then say goodnight. And I started the show when I close the curtains, remember? But I hesitate and I leave the curtain open a little bit and see that the light's staining the coffin, and I make the choice not to. And then this time I just turned the lights off, and I was just like full circle. Like I was like, oh my God, we shot this pilot 6 years ago, and now we're closing. So that was probably my favorite.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a great one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, what's your name? What's your question?
My name is Erin. Also, I love your necklace.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, what was your favorite scene to record during What Do We Do in the Shadows?
Favorite scene? I love doing the stunt stuff. One of my favorite episodes is when I'm trying to warn the vampires that they're coming to the house, the mosquito hunters. And I love being in the back, and they think it's Bloody Mary calling them because they don't know how to use a phone all these years. Like, that's like, it's all, please leave a message, dude. And then I'm whispering in the back of a van. I'm all like, you need to get in the house, you're going to die. So I'm whispering, but my whisper sounds like a demon. And they're, it's Bloody Mary. And so that was my favorite. And I got to do so much stunts. That was my first time doing stunts.
Great, thank you. Hi, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Sage, and I was wondering if in What We Do in the Shadows, if Guillermo was supposed to be gay from the beginning.
He wasn't. At one point, we didn't know what Guillermo was, and he was asexual, you know, and like he has lines like, I don't kiss and tell because I don't kiss, you know? Like there's ways that he was saying to us. And also the sexuality thing was such a thing of like, when the time was right and we had the conversation with the writers and they said we're gonna make Guillermo gay, and I was like, great, I think it's time for him to be what he wants to be and let us know when he's ready. And the thing of like goes back to coming out, and when people come out, I think it's always for the other person. Coming out, my sexuality is none of your business, and it shouldn't be anyone's business, and you should live your life how you want. But coming out is usually for the other person. When someone wakes up in the morning and they don't just wake up and go, oh, I'm gay, I better tell everyone, you know? Usually when you've been thinking about this for a while, in the back of your head, you've been thinking like, I think I might be, people, like, you know, they torment themselves with this question. So when someone comes out, they're not really coming out, they're letting you in. So when someone lets you in, be kind to them, and remember they're letting you in because they trust you.
That's great, that's great. Thank you. Hi, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Chase, and I'm really interested in your voice work. I wanted to know, when did you know that was something that you really wanted to pursue? Did you ever have like any reservations about it, or? I
always wanted to do voiceover, but voiceover is a really hard gig to get into. I am telling you, I tried for years to get into voiceover, and it wasn't until Shadows that like for luck, they asked me to audition for this character. And no, the first one was an offer. It was for Owl House. Disney was my first place, and I did a good job with that. And then they asked me to audition for Mickey Mouse Funhouse, and I did it. And it was during the pandemic. I remember I recording in my closet, like for this cartoon. I've always wanted to do cartoons and animation. I've always been, you know, but it's a hard thing to get into. Once you're in, like it's a little easier, but it is hard. I would say just do as many characters as you want, record them, and send them as your demo for stuff. But it is kind of a hard business to get into. And I love doing Nightwing on Harley Quinn. I love doing Perrito, and I love doing characters that you're like, that's you? And because with your voice, you can manipulate that. You know what I mean? I can only wear like a mustache and a hat until you're like, that's still Harvey playing that character. But I love when people can't tell that it's me, and they come up to like, I didn't know you play that, and they come to the table and they see, you know. So yeah, but if you come down to the table, say hi, and you can see all like the animations that you might not know I was in.
What's coming up? Any projects that you're allowed to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I just finished a movie called St. Peter with Judy Greer and Anna Sawai from Shogun, and we shot that in Utah. That comes out later this year. And I'm really excited. I have a couple of projects that I can't talk about yet, but I'm shooting something. And I just joined a different universe for animation that I can't talk about.
Ooh. And one final question. Would you like to take a picture with this wonderful audience?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, everybody.
Come on down. And remember, after this, come say hi at the box.
Yeah, come up towards the stage, just not on the stage.